What is going on, Sports Wars? We're here. We're live after a little bit of an internet hiccup, but we fixed it real quick before we went. But we're here for a little bit of Wednesday night against the spread. And as always, we're joined with the boys from sportspicks.locals.com. Robert, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Been a fun couple of semifinals in the World Cup. We got bowl season coming up. We got the heavy stretch. The final stretch of the NFL. A lot of teams still in the playoff hunt. At least they think so as of this week. Might be different after next week. And one of the great legends of the game, unfortunately, passed away. The great, memorable Mike Leach, the true pirate of college football. Sad to see him go. He gave us a couple of decades of great personality and great college football. His legacy will last on. It's all over college football and the NFL as we talk.
Yeah, that was a rough story to cover. You're always gonna have tough things like that, and it's always tough when there's a car accident, like all these tragedies that do occur because sports is just like life. And when that happened, I'm not gonna lie, that I'm not super attached to Mike Leach or anything, but that was just devastating. And seeing the entire college football world, seeing them all, put their hands out in prayer and everything, and college football lost a big soul in the past few days. So for sure. Cody, you're also here. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, I was also sad to hear about that. His passing offense has been incredible to watch the last 20 years. So that's a big loss for college football for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And Cricket, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on, man? Yeah, tough. That was tough with Mike Leach and everything. But on a lighter note, man, fuck the Chiefs, man. I took one of my bad beat last week. They're up 27-0 with about 4.5 minutes to go in the second quarter, and wound up letting them come all the way back. Man, only win by 6, giving up 8.5. So the webs we weave.
Especially when Russell Wilson's the quarterback, that's a really bad beat. He even got injured at the tail end of that game. So had old Brett Rippon in there. But what about Cody and Robert? Do you guys have any bad beats for the week before we get to this week's games?
Actually, have a good beat. I Sports Pick subscribers had the Rams not only +6, but on the money line, getting 2-1. It looked pretty dismal. In fact, I turned it off with about 7 minutes left. I was like, 16-3. This thing's over. Screw it. And then I find out, of course, the old Baker Mayfield had a little magic left in him. Went down and scored 2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes of the game, including one that was basically the last play of the game. To actually cash both tickets, the money line and the points for Sports Pick subscribers. So that was nice. That was a good beat in this case.
I was actually the same game, but it was because I did not get the bet in, and then they were right at the last minute. I think I'm good, and then nope.
Man, where do y'all sign up for these good beats like that? Man, I want to be just like y'all when I grow up.
Yeah, it's true. Good beats on a bad beat segment. Y'all are going to take that. That's always a good thing. But before we even get to the games for the week, we do have a couple big news topics. We were talking about a few of them before. Marcus Mariota benched in Atlanta. Now, normally for a 5-8 team, it wouldn't even be like a real news story. But because the NFC South is so bad, and they're one game out of first place right now, basically, from that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, that's a big move for Atlanta, and they're going to a backup. Apparently, Marcus Mariota had no interest in even being the backup quarterback. He kind of walked out on the team. He's going to have some knee surgery that's season-ending that wasn't even necessary. What's you guys' takes on that?
Well, I remember Mariota lost a lot of confidence with Titans fans when he famously didn't play in which playoff game was that, Cody, that people thought he would go out there and play, and they ended up not playing? It was several years, but it really ruined a lot of Titans fans' hopes and expectations for him. I remember a lot of people talking about, he's a tough guy, he'll definitely play, and then he didn't. So so that part of Mariota being a bit not having the mindset to want to continue to compete is not a surprise. Though I also think that's a poor coaching decision by the Atlanta coach. He said that he did this based on performance. Well, Atlanta's been an average offense all year with below average personnel. So it's not like, has he been great? No, he hasn't been Pro Bowler, but he hasn't been terrible either. In fact, he's been better than some guys like Matt Stafford and some other people. That's been a lot better than Russell Wilson. So it's like you're right in the middle of the playoff. You got a decent, his running ability was key to their offensive capabilities. And his passing game was, kind of, again, it was right about, like you compare the NFL league average, right at league average yards per play, right at league average in terms of net yards per attempt. actually above league average often in the running game. Often, they're in a lot of these games that I thought the coach mismanaged in terms of losing. And he's going to rookie Desmond Ridder, who I was never sold on when he was at Cincinnati anyway. I think Atlanta just gave Tom Brady and the Bucs a early Christmas gift by making themselves non-competitive down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, this organization's been going downhill since the halftime of that Super Bowl several years ago. Just worse and worse decisions as we go along. And this happens to be one of them, in my opinion. Mariota's, I thought, been pretty stellar, actually, as far as what they expected out of him and what we expected. And fans, we thought Atlanta was going to be one of the worst 3 teams in the league. And that hasn't been the case. And they probably would have won more games, like Bob said. It's been some bad play calling, some bad coaching choices, and bad play calling have led to this team being as bad as they are, even though they're still in the playoff hunt. So, yeah, I think it was a poor choice by them. But however it was done, Mariota must have felt extremely disrespected because he just up and left the team. They don't know if he'll be back. So, it's kind of crazy. I mean, if he goes on waivers, there's a chance some other team could claim him off waivers too.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys right here. This is definitely coaching, man. Arthur Smith, we talked about a little bit before we went live here. He just looks clueless all the time. I mean, this is a team that's lost 6 games by 7 points or less. And at some point, you got to look at coaching down the stretch there. I mean, mismanaging, miss clock management down the stretch, misusing your timeouts, just different calls like that. Not utilizing Kyle Pitts when he was healthy in the offense the way a freak like that should be utilized. And like I said, Mariota, I don't see any way I get any more out of Desmond Ridder than I get Mariota, so I might as well take the experience there and try to utilize that. And I don't understand it right here, man. I think Arthur Smith is going to find himself. And this is a team we expect to be in the bottom 5 of the league at the beginning of the year, and they definitely outperformed their expectations. But at this point, watching him, man, I really don't see anything from him that I expect him to be out as the Falcons head coach within the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be a tough. I mean, from those guys internally, they had to feel comfortable enough to do it. One game down, seeing a lot out of Mariota, but that's a big move, maybe just a desperation move, but we shall see. But let's get into these games for this week, boys. Thursday night game. This is actually a good one. Not a typical Thursday night games have been pretty bad, and you wouldn't think that Brock Purdy starting a quarterback would be a must-see primetime game. But after a game and a half, people are ready to put all their chips in on Brock Purdy for the San Francisco 49ers as they go up to play the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, and their road favorites. I get it. They beat the Dolphins and Tampa Bay back-to-back. They crushed Tampa Bay. Now, the Dolphins game, Purdy wasn't really that good in. They won despite him being very pedestrian. But he was very good against Tampa Bay, and Tom Brady was very poor in that game. And so fans are back to – and bettors and gamblers are back to betting him. And Vegas apparently has enough confidence in them to be 3-point road favorites. 60% of the tickets are coming in on San Francisco. Almost 70% of the money line is coming in on San Francisco. And people think it's going to go over. The total of 43. They basically are predicting a 23-20 San Francisco win. Almost 70% of the tickets are coming in on the over, though there's some sharp money that's on the under. That's because division rivals have been hitting unders a lot this year. If you don't believe in Brock Purdy, or you do believe in the San Francisco defense, or you don't believe in Geno Smith, or some combination thereof, then you could see this game definitely going under. My lean is toward the home dog. I like Seattle catching 3 points. I tend to bet against these flash-in-the-pan quarterbacks who nobody expected much of, who suddenly show up and start playing well. For every Kurt Warner, there's 3 Mike Whites. So I'm going to lean Seattle on the Thursday night game.
Mike White's the number 10 quarterback on the fantasy board this week. He cracked the top 10. But I like the under here, and I tend to. I think this line's pretty close to right. If anything, I like the Seahawks there, but I definitely like the under here. I like that defense in San Francisco for sure. They've been killing it, and I think that combination of my lack of faith in Purdy and still to some degree, even though I bought in a couple weeks ago to Geno Smith, still, I mean, he's still Geno Smith. But yeah, for that reason, I like the under.
Yeah, man. Brock Purdy became the first rookie in the Super Bowl era to throw for 2 touchdowns, rush for a touchdown, have a passer rating better than 125 in his first career start. So some big things out of Mr. Irrelevant from last year, looking pretty good. But the 49ers have been really solid of late, man. Won 6 consecutive games after starting 3-4. The Seahawks have blown a 2-game division lead, losing 3 of their last 4. But I like the Seahawks right here. I think they rebound a little bit. How long can the Brock Purdy magic last? And the 49ers have really struggled of late in this series from a gambling standpoint. They are 2-8-1 in the last 11 meetings in in Seattle against the spread. So I just like the Seahawks right here. I don't know. Something feels like they're going to right the ship a little bit. Geno's not going to have 2 bad games in a row. He's really played well all season long. I look for them to rebound this week. And plus 3.5, maybe the 49ers find a way to win it, but I don't think they win it by more than a field goal. Maybe they win it by a last-second field goal, something like that. So anything over a field goal right here, I'm okay with taking Seattle.
And I think it's important to note that one of the most important offensive players for any team, at least the way they use him in Deebo Samuel, he won't be playing. He won't be playing for a while. So, that's a big one when we're looking at this kind of thing, especially with a young quarterback, to rely on him in the run game and the pass game.
Yeah, this got McCaffrey.
Well, for sure.
But this matchup could decide who wins the NFC West, man. It's big time. We didn't really expect it at the beginning of the season.
Purdy's first NFL game on the road too, so it'll be interesting. But yeah, I agree that Deebo Samuel loss is a big injury loss for the 49ers. Even with, obviously the best pickup all year has been Christian McCaffrey by the 49ers.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. But when you look at Deebo's usage and his load, doesn't matter who's at quarterback for them. And when you can put him all over the field, it really important guy for them to lose. So they need to hold on to this and hopefully get this guy back. Maybe he might be coming back at the same time Jimmy comes back at this point, if they can make the championship.
Ayuk's really stepped up though, man. He really played well the last couple months.
Yeah. You can't take the ball up the middle, though. Maybe Deebo shouldn't be
right.
These injuries he's been having the past couple of years with those plays. A lot of dive plays for your star wide receiver. Now moving to the Saturday games. We got some games on Saturday this week. The Colts heading to the Vikings. Kirk Cousins gets to play at 1 p.m. at home, but it is on a Saturday. Fortunately, it's against Jeff Saturday's Colts.
Yeah, indeed. The Vikings favored by 4 at home, a total of 48.5. They're predicting something like 26-22 in favor of the Vikings. The public is hammering the Vikings. 2/3 of the tickets are coming in on the Vikings. Almost all the money line tip money is coming in on the Vikings. And they think it'll still go over, which is interesting because I look at this and see it as more of an under kind of game, given, despite Saturday having some nice little success out of the gate, Matt Ryan is still a Matt Ryan way past his prime. And that offense still can't really generate a lot of points. If the Vikings don't need to generate tons of points, then I don't see the game as necessarily hitting the over. I would lean under in the game, lean Vikings.
Yeah, I think it's really close to where it's supposed to. I got it at 27-20, 27-22, something like that. So if anything, I'd take the Vikings, but the over-under at 48.5 is right close to where it should be. But yeah, so if anything, I like the Vikings, but that's about it.
Yeah, I believe the Jeff Saturday magic is kind of worn off a little bit. The Colts have lost 6 of 7 now, just really, really struggling. Matt Ryan is leading the NFL in interceptions with 13 and fumbles with 14. So 2 categories you really don't want to be at the top of. And I think the Vikings shake off that dust last week. I thought they would lose to Detroit. I thought Detroit played them really well in Minnesota, and I thought they would give them trouble last week in Detroit. But I think the Vikings bounce back right here. I think anything under a touchdown you're okay with. They just they've showed me a big time somebody they're going to get back is left tackle Christian Darrisaw. When he's in the game, he hasn't played a complete game since November 6th with some concussion stuff. But when he's in the game, they average 4.67 yards per carry. And if he's not in the game, they average under 3 yards per carry. So a big difference for that offensive line and getting him back and healthy.
Yeah, if there's one time to bet on Jeff Saturday's Colts, it might be on a Saturday game. Just saying. I think this is the only time they're probably going to play on Saturday all year long because they sure ain't making the playoffs. So
you might have something there, man.
I don't know. It's the way the gods work. Who knows? Next game we've got again on Saturday. So all these are going to be on NFL Network. So all these are going to be not nationally broadcast. You got NFL Network, but the only game on at the time. Ravens headed to Cleveland to play the Browns. Now, the best of my knowledge, Lamar Jackson will not be back. Tyler Huntley, I don't know the status of him. So who knows what's going on in this game?
Yeah, they might be on their 3rd string because Huntley's got some concussion issues. So you have the old Cleveland Browns playing the Cleveland Browns. This is as much a rivalry game for Cleveland fans as any game on the schedule by a long mile. Cleveland's favored by 2.5 at home. The public's still betting the Ravens. The total is low, 37. So, they're predicting something like 20-17 win by Cleveland. I think that is in part reflective of confidence in the Ravens defense, and also the fact that the Browns have not been the offense people thought they would be once Deshaun was in the back in the as quarterback, and he hasn't played very well. So I think that at some point they get that offense clicking, though. I mean, it's not like he had a lot of bad seasons in Houston, and so I just think a little bit of rust. I mean, it's been almost 2 years since he played. Maybe it does need a few extra masseuses to get him going. But otherwise, I would lean a little bit towards Cleveland in this game just because the Ravens are on probably quarterback number 3.
I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm gonna lean towards I lean towards the Browns in this game, but who knows who's going to be playing? So when I find that out, it's going to be a little bit. It may change things, but I like the Browns here for now.
Man, I'll tell you, I know who is going to be playing. That's that Ravens defense, and they are nasty. They have allowed the 8th fewest points in the NFL this season at 19.2 points per game, and have only allowed 39 combined points in their last 4 games. Like I said, that acquisition of Roquan Smith, one of the top tacklers in the NFL, has really, really paid dividends. It makes that defense so much better. A defense that was already very good before they got him. I know you have a lot of questions with the quarterback stuff for Baltimore, so it's hard for me to lean to a side in this one. I don't know. Baltimore beat them 23-20 in Baltimore earlier this year. Nick Chubb ran for 91 yards and a touchdown, but he only managed 34 yards on 14 carries against a much lesser Cincinnati defense last week. So I'm gonna have to look at the total in this one, man. I'm gonna go under. I know it's a low total at 37.5, but I'm gonna have to go under this one because I don't see a lot of points in this one with all the quarterback questions and just how elite the Ravens defense has been playing lately.
Yeah, Nick Chubb got absolutely stuffed last week, and that's probably his worst performance of the year. Cody, you track fantasy better than pretty much anybody else here, so maybe you know better, but he had some like 33 yards on the ground. So you have to imagine that Browns team wants to get him running. We'll see what they can do. That'll be a good matchup with Roquan Smith in the middle of that defense going against Nick Chubb all day. So.
It looks like Huntley is on track to start.
Yeah, I mean, he got concussion, so he couldn't play that game, and it's always just kind of, what does it look like? Those guys coming through.
Is it Tua bad or not?
Yeah.
If Huntley can't go, man, they're pretty much relying on the rookie Anthony Brown that came in last week in his relief, stuff like that. So I mean, that'll be tough, and because
they managed to have all identical quarterbacks.
Right, I know. It's like they're cloning them or something.
I mean, it does make sense. You know what I mean? If you're gonna run that scheme, then you bring in guys that fit the type. And I mean, more coaches should be doing this around the NFL. Especially as we get more of these guys that kind of fall into this hybrid role. Your Justin Fields. Would it really make sense to have Andy Dalton backing up a guy like Justin Fields?
Well, you saw it on Monday night when Kyler Murray goes down third play of the game. You got to bring in Colt McCoy now, 2 totally different quarterbacks. You got to change your entire game plan third play of the game, and it really. I mean, Colt played well early on in the first half, but it obviously affected them late.
Yeah, for sure. And Colt's a better replacement. He's been around the league and stuff, and they played pretty well the couple games that he filled in for Kyler. Probably has them doubting that contract, but and then we've got a good game right here in the AFC East. Dolphins heading to Buffalo to play the Bills, coming off some poor performances from Tua. No other way to put it. One point, I think it was 3 for 17 in the game last Sunday, but we'll see what they can do against the Bills.
Yeah, this will the big X factor in this game is how is Tua going to handle the weather. So it's going to be very, very cold in Buffalo. It always usually is this time of year. And Tua has never played below 40 degrees in his lifetime. He played at Hawaii, then he played at Alabama, now he plays at Miami. Even when he played a couple of NFL games up in the Northeast, they did not drop to this kind of weather. So how does Tua, coming off a couple of bad games, now he gets to face the Buffalo Bills in freezing cold temperatures? How does he play? That will be interesting to watch. Bills favored by 7. Public's leaning toward the Bills. Total of 43.5. Public's leaning towards the over. So they're basically predicting, something like 25-18, something in that neighborhood. And so they don't think Tua is going to be able to do much in the cold against the Bills defense. They think the Bills will put up their typical offensive number. I look at this. I think, it's how do you think Tua is going to bounce back or not? I would lean towards Miami, especially if this gets over 7, because they have a lot of weapons. They're very competitive. The Bills, since, once Josh Allen ran into a little bit of trouble, hasn't been quite the dominating team they were to start the season. So but the big X factor is the weather. Is how do you think Tua is going to handle that cold? And do you think his recent performance is something that's going to continue to struggle? Have people figured him out in some way in this offensive scheme? Or was that just a hiccup and he'll get back to rolling with one of the best offensive coordinators in college football and pro football?
Yeah, you got 2 top 15 wide receivers from a fantasy perspective in Miami there. You got Mike Gesicki. You just got massive amounts of weapons to throw to. If this gets anything above 7, I'm definitely taking Miami, but I like him at 7 here too.
Yeah, this is the 3rd straight road game for the Dolphins. They have played very badly in those first 2. I can live with a bad game from Tua against the San Francisco 49ers defense, who I consider the top defense in the league, but that Chargers defense is awfully banged up, man. He still played bad, had a 45.9% completion percentage in those 2 losses, so playing really, really bad in what has been one of the more potent offenses this year. So I got to look to the total in this one. Like I said, the Bills have struggled as well on the offensive side of the ball the last couple of weeks, and I think the weather has something to do with that, playing up there in Buffalo. But like you said, Robert, it's going to be very cold this week, going to be a little windy, about 12.5 mile an hour plus winds. You're going to get some snow and stuff mixed in there, so I don't see a lot of offensive fireworks in this one. And like I said, the Bills defense is much more capable than the Chargers defense was. So if I'm picking a side, man, anything under a touchdown, I think you're okay with the Bills. I wouldn't mess with it if it gets over it, but I'm going to go with the total right here, and I'm going to go under the 42.5.
Yeah, I think that weather, you'd have to imagine it's going to affect the way that the Dolphins like to play a little more than the Bills. Now, the Bills can play a couple different ways. You know what I mean? They can run it down your throat if they want. They could do a lot of read options with Josh Allen. I don't regularly recommend him going flying around trying to get first downs like he was last week. But, of course, they can throw it around when they want to, too. So I think the Bills have the edge with this weather. Don't have any idea what Tua will look like. I don't know how many cold weather games he's had under his belt. So we'll see if he goes full tough guy, goes out there full sleeveless, you know what I mean, trying to be the dude in the cold. And we'll see if it works for him. Now, heading to Sunday games, another game that will be cold at Soldier Field, although I don't think it's going to be much of a game. The Philadelphia Eagles at my Chicago Bears.
Any word on Justin Fields' illness, whether he's going to play or not?
I imagine he'll play. I haven't heard too many updates, though.
Okay.
So, well, it doesn't matter, but we'll see.
The Eagles are favored by 9 at Chicago and Soldier Field, and more than 60% of the tickets are coming in on the Eagles. The money line is over 90% on the Eagles. Nobody thinks the Bears can win. And then the total is a kind of a high total in my view, 48.5.
People think the Bears will score, but not win. So
yeah, exactly. And it's like Soldier Field in winter, I don't know if I would go with a high total. So I would lean towards the under in that game, and I would lean towards the Bears, especially if it gets up to 10. Might be a game you could throw in with a teaser because you're getting him more than 2 touchdowns. I think the Bears are going to hang in there. I don't think the Eagles are just going to go in and walk all over them, especially if Fields plays. I think that keeps the Bears in the game. I think chance of winning are small, but maybe a small long shot bet because it's the kind of surprise game that the Bears have had a history of pulling. That would be my lean in the game.
I've normally hammered away on these home dogs, big home dogs like this. But the times I've gotten burnt, 2 of them have been the Eagles that have been burning me. They have so far clear-cut shown that they are the best, most consistent team in the NFL, and they're number 1 in winning, which is most important. This Eagle team is a much better team, and I agree with Bob about the under there being cold. And I think that the Bears defense isn't complete trash and can slow them down some there at home in that weather. But whether or not they stick close to 9, I'm not convinced. So I like the under, but nothing else.
Yeah, but I'm with you, Cody. But this is a really, really, really good football team. I mean, they are ranked 2nd in ranked second in defense and third in offense in the league. So just top tier in both categories. Jalen Hurts became the first quarterback in NFL history to rush for 10 touchdowns, 10 plus touchdowns in consecutive seasons. Just play. I think he's your MVP. I think he's got to be. And I think these Eagles are going to be way too good for the Bears this weekend. I think 9's too low. I look for this to be a 2+ touchdown victory. And the Eagles have just really done well in this series of late. They're 5-0 in their last 5 meetings heads up against the spread. So I like the Eagles right here. I think they're playing too good a football with an MVP on the field. And I just look for more big things out of them. And I see this to be a 2+ touchdown victory for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Bears fan, so I assume they're going to get killed. That's just how it works. But yeah, I think that with that Bears defense right now, we've seen them give up quite a few points this year, especially with the loss of Roquan Smith. As the anchor for that defense, I feel like since then they've been giving up. I don't know what the stats say, but it just feels like that as a fan watching. It feels like they've struggled to stop teams. I think Justin Fields will break off a couple runs. He's having a crazy season, rushing wise, but it's not winning football. It's just simply not at this point. But we will see what the Eagles defense does to kind of start corralling that. And if we see people start slowing down Justin Fields on the running side of things.
If they ever figure out how to utilize him, man, I think they can really do some things with him. He's got all the athletic skill set, but he's got to find an offense where he fits in.
It sounds like future is a great wide receiver.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we got the Falcons. The Falcons, no Marcus Mariota Falcons heading to the Saints, who are sticking with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Dalton's been up and down. So he had 2 really bad back-to-back games. Then he came back well against the Rams. Then his performance against the 49ers wasn't as bad statistically as it appeared, or the Bucs, from a passing perspective. The problem has been for the last 5 games, the Saints have been averaging something like 60 rushing yards on less than 3 yards per carry. They just cannot run the ball for 5 weeks in a row. And that degree of what we're seeing in this year's NFL is you do need some run balance. If you don't have it, you can put up some good passing stats. And unlike past seasons where you could have no running game, and Patriots often had no running game for years with Brady. Manning at some years didn't have any good running game. Some years had great running games, some years none. And it often didn't impact same with Aaron Rodgers at Green Bay. It often didn't impact their yards per play or impact their points per game. But this year it is. Maybe it's because of so much of the NFL offenses incorporating a play action based offense where the passing game is predicated upon the running game, and like the Rams. And when their running game falls apart, their passing game goes with it. But here the Saints have been actually, Andy Dalton's been up and down, but they've got to find a way to run the ball. Now, the Atlanta Falcons defense and Desmond Ritter's first start playing on the road in the Superdome may be the answer that the Saints need. Now, as a whole, when first-time starters start in the NFL, they tend to cover at a higher rate than expected. I'm just not convinced that Ritter is the answer for Atlanta. Saints are favored by 4.5, basically expected to win by something like 24-19. And 2/3 of the tickets, though, are on the Falcons because people are doubtful of the Saints due to their recent struggles, at least in scoring points offensively. The total money is evenly spread out. I lean towards the Saints in this game just because I think Ritter is going to be a disaster for Atlanta. But it's kind of how – and I think they can find a way to get the running game back and going, and Dalton has been good enough over the course of the season to suggest that he can get back to putting up some decent stats. But that's where I'd lean, not a strong lean.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with all of that, and it's really a shame for those for the Saints out there. Tyler Algier has more yards than Alvin Kamara on less carries. They've got to find a way, but I think they can. Kamara's a beast, and I think if they can find a way to turn that around, this might be the game to be able to do that. That'll complement that run game will complement him enough to be a consistent starter for them. I like him better than he throws way less picks. But I'm leaning towards the Saints.
Yeah. When these two teams met the opener of the season, the Falcons looked like the better team for 3 quarters, and they got outscored 17-3 in the fourth quarter to lose 27-26. So really let one slip away right there. A game that really, really could matter a lot right now, being right there in that hunt for the NFC South. But I think the Saints are going to rebound, man. They played really well for I mean, over 3.5 quarters against the Buccaneers. They allowed Tom Brady to come down after playing a masterful game defensively and come down and throw 2 touchdown passes in the last 3 minutes. So I think the Saints are going to rebound this week. Dennis Allen's came out and said they want to get Alvin Kamara more incorporated in the offense, do more things with him, allow him to do all the things he's been able to do throughout his career to be one of the most productive running backs in the league. And they know they got to get him more involved. So I think they're going to do that this week. And I think they're able to bounce back with all the stuff with Desmond Ridder. I think they really blew that. I mean, Mariota's, I feel like, has done what he's needed to do. I mean, he went above and beyond what they should have asked of him for the preseason, and to really cut ties with him like that, I don't know. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth, at least. I know it's got to leave one in his. So I like the Saints right here, man. I think they bounce back and get a win. I think anything under a touchdown, you're okay.
Yeah, it's a tale of two kind of miserable teams this year. You know what I mean? And I think them sticking with Andy Dalton, even right now, speaks volumes about how they feel about Jameis Winston. So you have to wonder who's their quarterback next year? What are their plans? Because I don't think that either of those guys are what they want to do going forward. And it certainly isn't Taysom Hill either. So
they might be thinking draft pick or something. Maybe with as bad as the season's going, they might be trying to get somebody high on draft pick. Well, I don't think anybody on the board is really worth taking with a first-round pick this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
If you can't get a top 5 pick anyway.
Right. Maybe Seattle's got some to spare, because all those ones they gave up or they got for Russell Wilson.
Right.
Now we got another 1 p.m. game. The Lions versus the Jets. 6-7 Lions versus 7-6 Jets.
Yeah, I mean a lot of respect for the Lions. This game has gone back and forth. At one point, they're favored. Right now, depending on where you're at, the Jets are favored by 1 at most books. But 60% of the bets are coming on the Lions, total of 44.5. So they're basically predicting 24, 20, 23, 22 kind of game in New York. The public is hammering the under, so they're not quite sold that the Lions will be able to continue to put up their big offensive stats that they have sustained throughout the year, almost a top 5 offense. Had a little hiccup after Belichick gave them trouble, but they bounced back last several weeks. So I don't have a strong lean on this game on the total or the points or the money line. I think if anything, maybe the Lions would deserve to be favorites rather than underdogs where they currently are at some spots. But I think it is kind of a pick 'em ball game.
Yeah, I like the Lions in the over here. Jared Goff's playing really, really, really good ball. He's killing it. He is definitely far from a bum. But yeah, no, he's playing really well. And White, I think he's gonna come back down to earth here. He's been playing real good for the Jets last couple of weeks, but I don't think that's been I don't think that's sustainable there in New York. And I think the Lions win here, and I think they win big and they go over.
Man, I knew you was going to give me some shit over that, Cody. I knew you was, man. I was already prepared to eat the crow before you even said it. But Jared Goff is playing some of the best football of his career. 11 touchdowns, 1 pick in his last 7 games. Just really doing some great things in this offense. And I think they go to the New York Jets this weekend. Jets team I've been pretty high on all year long, man. But I think they go and get a win right here. I think this line's a little low, actually. I think it should be closer to a field goal. But I like the Lions right here. I like what they've been doing on offense. I just think, like I said, I think Jared Goff is playing the best football of his career. And Mike White with the injury stuff, he's got the rib injury, probably going to play and all that. They did bring Zach Wilson back up to be the backup. He's been on the practice squad for the last few weeks, but Flacco really didn't show anything there when he came in for Mike White those few series last game. And so if Mike White can't go the whole game, I mean, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters what quarterback's out there. I think the Detroit Lions are playing too well, so I'm okay with taking them right here. Anything under a field goal.
That offensive coordinator for the Lions will be a head coach next year in the NFL.
I agree.
With the production they're having with Jared Goff, I would imagine. And you got to wonder, what the future holds for the Lions with Jared Goff. This guy's 28 years old, 29 maybe. He's not old, he's still a young guy, and he's having a great season with a lot of weapons, and he's not a massive, he's probably getting paid I think his cap hit's $30 million a year, which to say that's not massive is sad, but that's where we're at in the NFL when, guys are looking at getting paid $50 million a year and insane things like that.
Well, saw one of the mock drafts the other day that actually had the Lions looking to take CJ Stroud. I don't know how it works out, but it looks like they have the number 4 pick right now, and they had him taking CJ Stroud. So maybe you bring him in, let Jared Goff help develop him for a couple of years and try to move on from there. But I think right now he's playing well enough you can't just get rid of him.
Yeah, for sure.
Has an Urban Meyer quarterback ever been consistent in the NFL?
Yeah. Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, I get Stroud is not, it's not directly Urban Meyer, but it's Urban Meyer's system, Ryan Day, all the rest. I just put it. I wouldn't be in an eager rush to pick one of those guys.
If he can't even beat Michigan, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see how he plays. I mean, CJ Stroud can make a lot of bonus points playing well against Georgia.
Was Alex Smith Urban Meyer's QB?
Yeah, he was at Utah, but he wasn't consistent, right? Yeah, really, he was good under only Andy Reid.
CJ Stroud might have more talent at Ohio State than he would have. I mean, he's got a lot of talent at the lines, but there's a lot of talent at Ohio State too.
We've seen that this year. We've seen how good those receivers are.
Right.
And remember, Jameson Williams was once part of that crew.
Absolutely. Ain't that crazy?
It's ridiculous.
Now another 1 p.m. game. We have the Steelers coming off a 3 interception performance from Mitch Trubisky coming into the game after an injury against the you got to call them at least a little bit hot right now, the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I mean they're actually still in the playoff hunt in the division race. So even though they sent their best player, Christian McCaffrey, to San Francisco, let go of their quarterback they brought in to start. And they're still in the race after they fired their coach. So credit to them. They went to Seattle and won. They're favored by 3 at home against the Steelers. 60% of the tickets are on Carolina. The public's leaning in their direction, even more so on the money line. And a low total, 37.5. Respecting both of these teams have put up pretty good defensive numbers, particularly Carolina at home. And neither offense exactly terrorizes anybody. Despite that 37.5 low total for a game that's not going to be played in cold weather, it's going to be played down south. Almost 80% of the tickets of the public is still coming in on the under. They don't think either one of these teams can score. I mean, the predicted score is about 20-17 is where the team totals are going to be for each one. And I kind of see it. I mean, the Steelers have not exactly blown the doors off anybody, and Carolina is not exactly an explosive offense. So I don't have any strong lean on the game. I think most of those lines are about where I would put them. But it'll be interesting if Carolina can keep winning.
Yeah, both these teams have had extremely underrated defenses all year long, I think, especially the Panthers. The Panthers, I've got them in the back of them in several leagues, and fantasy-wise, they've scored more than 20 points 3 times this year. They've had some real good defensive games where they're shutting people out. The same with the Steelers. The Steelers have been able to hold good teams to lower than what they would normally score all year long. So that total reflects that. And the spread, I think, is right where it's at, too. I think Carolina's a slightly better team here, and they're on a roll. And I think they get the win at home here, but it's not going to be by much.
Yeah, the Panthers won 3 of 4, getting their first road win last week since week 10 of last season when they went out there and beat the Seahawks. That's a big win for those guys to stay in that NFC South race. And I think they're going to keep doing some good things this week. I really do. Steelers got some questions with injuries. Kenny Pickett, the concussion stuff. It's going to be Trubisky, if not him. But Najee Harris also got a hip thing going on. Don't know how healthy he's going to be. And the Panthers rushed for 223 yards last week against the Seahawks. And the Steelers allowed 215 yards rushing from the Ravens. So I think that's going to be the difference in the game. That little trio of Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, and Raheem Blackshear. So those 3 guys have really put in some work the last few weeks, and I like the Panthers to keep it rolling this week. I think anything under a field goal you're okay with right here, but I like what the Panthers are doing right now. You got Sam Darnold back. He didn't have to do much last week with the rushing game being so productive, but I think he can do enough to get the win right here for the Panthers.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard's a real quality back. Sitting there behind Christian McCaffrey. The year Christian McCaffrey went down in one of the first games, he was my handcuff in fantasy, and he can be productive when he gets those opportunities, both from the backfield and catching the ball. So the Panthers have been fun, not fun, but I mean they've won the past 2 games after firing their head coach and moving on from all these players that they wanted to have. So it's been interesting to see that play out.
I'm pretty sure Chuba Hubbard's in the top 10 all time for rushing yards in college when he was at Oklahoma State. Man, he had, I don't remember how many yards it was. I want to say, I could be completely wrong, but I want to say he had over 5,000 rushing yards at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, he was a boss in college for sure. Yeah. Now we got America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, heading to nobody's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Nobody's team. The Dallas is 4-point favorites on the road, total of 47.5. Kind of struck me as a little bit low, but that's what the public thinks too. The public's evenly split on both the money line and the points. They're basically predicting 26-22 in favor of the Cowboys. 90% of the tickets are coming in on the over 47.5, which I understand because Dallas's offense has been dynamic through most of, despite their struggles last week against the Texans. Now, Sports Pick subscribers had the Texans, so that was a nice little cash. Almost put a long shot bet on the Texans, and I would have been complaining about that bad beat had they, but we didn't. So I think the Cowboys are the real deal. I think 4 points a little bit high, depending on how you evaluate. I mean, Trevor Lawrence last week was fantastic. So I might lean a little bit towards the Jags getting that many points because at 4, you're only going to lose that bet likely if they lose by 6 or more in all likelihood. You could put them in a teaser and you got them at you're getting double digits plus 10 or more. So I would lean a little bit towards the Jags, but otherwise no strong feel in the game.
Yeah, same. I've been my Jags had a little trouble. Not my Jags, but I figured I'd claim them since Ryan says they don't have anybody. My Jags have been they were a little slow to start, but now coming back at the end here, I've been excited to watch. Man, did they pound Tennessee last week, and they looked real good doing it. I think they figured some things out in that passing game, and I'm really hoping to see it, progress this week against the Cowboys. I think that spread's a little close. If it went to 5, I'd definitely be jumping on the Jaguars for sure. But otherwise, yeah, I'm right there where Bob is. I lean towards the Jaguars, but that Dallas is a better team.
Those are totally your Jags, Cody. For everybody that doesn't know, me and Cody made a side bet at the beginning of the year for the first team to make an AFC championship. I got the Jets and he's got the Jaguars. So we got a little side bet going on there. So they are his Jags for sure. But Trevor Lawrence,
he's winning. Quarterback-wise, I'm winning.
That's true for sure. Speaking of that quarterback, man, Trevor Lawrence had a big game last week. 368 yards, a career high, 3 touchdowns, also ran for a touchdown. I think they scored something like 26 or 29 straight points in that game. Looked really good in a game that in a series they've struggled in of late. So I want to look to the total of this one. The Cowboys defense has been pretty good all year long, but they allowed 23 points to the Texans. Only the second time the Texans have got over 20 points this season last week. And that offense, even though it struggled, still scored 27 points. So I'm going to look at the total of this one. I'm going to go over the 47.5 because I think both these offenses kind of get it clicking, kind of battle back and forth type game. It's kind of hard for me picking a side with it being over a field goal because I don't know what I'm going to get out of the Jaguars. But I think the total right here is sitting a little low. I think it should be a little closer to 49 or 50. So I'm going to take over 47.5 right here and look for some things out of these offenses this weekend.
There you go. Maybe the Cowboys can take this game a little more seriously than they took that Texans game.
They better.
Yeah, they better. Now the 1 p.m. game, we got the Kansas City Chiefs heading to Houston to play those Texans.
Man, the lines just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger involving the Texans. So despite the Texans covering last week in Dallas, they are 14-point underdogs against the Kansas City Chiefs, a total of 49.5. So they're basically predicting that the Chiefs win by something like 32-18. A lot of points for the Chiefs to score on the road against Lovie Smith's Texans. But the public's still hitting the over. I would lean towards the Texans getting 14 points at home this year. I mean, in some past years, some of these big spreads, they've been covering the favorite, but this year generally they have not, particularly on the road. Double-digit favorites have mostly been a losing bet this year, and 14 is just a lot of points against Houston. And Houston showed last week they're still fighting. I mean, even though they're obviously out of it for any kind of playoff contention, they're in the number 1 draft pick. They already got that pretty much locked up. In all likelihood, they've continued to play hard. So, they haven't given up on the season at all. And so I think they'll continue to play hard. And I don't think the Chiefs are going to go in and put up a huge number that just blows them out of the game. And their weakness has been more run defense than pass defense. Lovey still can put together a good pass defense in the NFL on a game-by-game basis. Showed that last week in giving Dak Prescott trouble through most of the game. So I lean towards the Texans catching 14 at home.
Yeah, I think Ryan Wilson's Broncos are the only team that have a chance at catching up to Texas if they can manage to win a couple games and get that number 1 pick. But yeah, these are still NFL teams, and that 14 is just too high. I'm going to take that more times than not. Those big dogs, like I said, they've been winners this year. Even though I'm avoiding Philadelphia, I'm betting against them, but I will take the Texans here. That's just far too many points. I like Texas.
Yeah, I got burned last week on that 2+ touchdown spread by the Cowboys really laid an egg for me, and the Chiefs also laid an egg for me there. But I think this total's a little high, man. It's sitting at 49.5, 50, somewhere around there, wherever you can get it. But I think it should be closer to 45, 44, something like that. The Texans, I don't see, like I said, only scored 20-plus points for the second time this season last week. You know, I know the Chiefs just gave up 28 to the worst offense in the NFL, but they scored 21 points in a 3.5-minute span, you know, spanning halftime, one of those being a 66-yard touchdown reception. I just don't see the Chiefs doing that again this week. I think they're going to be ready to go. I don't see the Texans being able to put up a lot of points in this, and they do have enough of a defense. Like I said, the run defense is where they're, you know, they struggle a little bit, and the secondary can cover some people. That's more the Chiefs' strength, being able to do that. I know they have Patrick Mahomes, and I think the Chiefs could have a potential to blow this out, but I just don't think the Texans are going to be able to put up enough points in this game. So I'm going to go under 49.5. That seems like far too many points in this game for both these teams.
Yeah, we'll see what Lovie Smith can do. I do think the Broncos can catch them for the number 1 pick, and I think the Bears can. So because they got 3 wins apiece. So, you know, if the Texans win out, they better make sure they lose this game, secure that number 1 pick. I don't think people will be very happy if they win these next couple games.
I would bench Justin Fields the rest of the year, man. If y'all even had, I didn't know y'all had a chance at it. I'd let him sit the rest of the year, get healthy for sure.
Yeah, Bears and Broncos have 3 wins apiece. The Broncos, I believe, right now will be slotted to get that number 2 overall pick if they hadn't traded to the Seahawks. So the Seahawks very well may get the number 2 overall pick while having a quarterback who's playing better than Russell Wilson at the same time.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, that means they may get, you know, Bryce Young. They may get one of the either Young or Stroud will clearly be available at that point.
Boy,
what are you talking about? They have Geno, most accurate passer in the NFL.
Geno Dimes, yeah, man.
Geno Dimes.
Yeah, you gonna move off Geno? I don't know. Now, go ahead.
They need to be thinking, you know, defense. Most of that defense,
offensive lineman, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, get Rashad Penny back healthy again there in the backfield. Let him steamroll people. Yeah,
offensive line where they need to be looking.
Now the 4 o'clock game, we got the Arizona Cardinals with assumingly Colt McCoy at quarterback playing, I think, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. Now, Russell Wilson got his bell rung. He looked like he was trying to imagine what Subway commercial he was filming at the time. He got taken off the field. So I don't know if he's going to be ready to go or not. With concussions, always tough to tell this time of week, but.
Yeah, my bad beat was Kyler Murray going down the first or second play of the game or third play or whatever it was. It's like, that's the end of the Arizona offense for the night, and mostly was. And, of course, now he's on the IR, and he's got the kind of knee injury that can take at least a year to recover from typically. So, you know, trouble there in Arizona after giving him that big contract in the offseason. So they go, and Colt McCoy is in the concussion protocol, so it's not clear he's going to play. Denver is favored by 3 at home. Public slight lean towards Arizona in the public tickets. Real low total, 36. Despite that, 3/4 of the bets are coming in on the under, which means I'll probably still beat myself up and take another over on a Denver Broncos game this week just to bet against, just to short the public. Though you can easily see that game going low scoring if Russell Wilson is, well, who knows, maybe the backup to Russell will be better. Last week was the first time that offense finally showed a little bit of signs of life. The question is, can they continue to have at least some NFL-style offense, or will they slip back and regress back to the awful offense they've been most of the year and a dominating defense to go with it? So I see why the public is betting a low total of 36 in the NFL. I mean, basically they're predicting 20-17, 19-16 kind of game. I would lean towards Denver if you think their offense is finally back a little bit, just because I think Arizona might be in real trouble. And I don't know how much a lot of their players are going to play. I mean, at this point, their season's done. So we'll see. I don't know how many of them like Kingsbury or not. So that will be something to watch. How much? I mean, they're all pros. They're all paid. So you don't typically get like college style collapses at the end of a season, but you get a game or two where they might more than a few players might take off. So I lean towards the Denver and lean a little bit towards the over, despite how tricky that is with Denver this year.
Yeah, I'm staying away from that over. It's been burned us too many times this year, personally. But I'll have to see who's playing. If Colt McCoy plays, I may not like Denver as much. But the way it sits, I'm liking Denver at 3 points at home.
Man, this is another one of those games at the beginning of the year we thought was going to be a really, really good game with major playoff implications. This just turned out to be a terrible, terrible matchup. And, I got to lean under right here. I know it's sitting low, real low at 36.5, 37, somewhere around that. But this Denver defense has been the lead all year long. I feel so bad for those guys because that offense has struggled so badly. And not what you expect when you pay somebody, quarter of $1 billion for a contract. That's not really what you expect to get out of your offense. But, if Russell can go, even if he can go, he hadn't really showed me much all year long. And I got to lean under right here. They got a lot of pressure on Colt McCoy last week. The Patriots did with that defense, really had a big game for that defense. And this Denver defense is better than that Patriots defense. I think they're going to be able to apply all kinds of pressure, maybe find a defensive touchdown. So if I had to lean to a side, I would lean to Denver in this one. But I just don't think they're going to get over that 37. I know it's low, but I got to go under right here.
Well, speaking of that Patriots defense, next game is the Patriots. Bill Belichick facing a former student, a former employee of his over there with the Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the Patriots are right at that playoff edge right now. They're in, but they're barely in. They're in the last wild card spot for that third wild card spot that's now available in the newly formulated playoff structure of the NFL. And they're favored. They're favored. I'm sure their fans will travel well out here to Vegas in wintertime. They'll welcome the break. So there'll probably be a decent presence of Pats fans in Vegas. But it's still a little surprising that they're favored. I mean, it's not like Mac has really been the Mac attack that some people thought he could be. That offense has been very pedestrian. Defense at times has been good. Times hasn't been dominant. The Raiders' offense statistically has actually played quite well. It's just they haven't translated that to wins. Obviously, the Raiders' head coach would love to beat his mentor and Bill Belichick. I don't know what Belichick's record is against former assistants. That'd be an interesting stat. I don't think it's like a Nick Saban style stat where it's like 26-2 or some ridiculous number.
I'd imagine it's probably like 75% win percentage or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be my guess too. So the public's evenly split on this. They're only the total is 44.5. They're only leaning toward the over. 2/3 of the tickets on the over. So they're basically predicting, that New England wins 23-22. I would lean towards the Raiders catching points at home.
I see it hard. I have a hard time thinking Belichick's gonna lose this. Sorry, I was gonna stop and try to look that up because I'm really curious now what that is. But yeah, I have a hard time thinking Belichick's gonna lose this game here to McDaniels. I think they win this game. They're favored by what now? Just one?
Yeah, just one.
Okay, yeah, because I still had them at even. But yeah, I like the Pats to win this game, and I'd stay away from the over/under.
Yeah, that's one of those weird lines I'm gonna like to stay away from. I'm gonna look at the total, and this one's sitting, like I said, 44.5, 45. Where it depends on where you can find it. And I'm gonna go under right here. That Patriots defense is playing really, really well. The under is 5-2 in the Raiders' last 7 overall, and 5-1 in the Pats' last 6 overall. So these defenses are, playing well enough to get the job done in most spots. The Raiders were on a 3-game winning streak before blowing that one to the Rams, to Baker Mayfield and the Rams last week, losing 17-16. But that defense was still played very well throughout that game, and I expect more from the Patriots defense this week. So, two guys, head coaches that know each other pretty well, probably going to be pretty well prepared from the defensive standpoint going into this game. So I got to lean under right here, 44.5, 45, around that. I think anything under 45, I think you're okay taking the under.
I do have an update here. So this was as of last year, so I don't think it includes any games this year. Belichick is 14-12, including the playoffs, versus former Patriots players/assistant coaches. So this does include, like, say, his record against Mike Vrabel, who wasn't, an assistant coach of his, but was a player. At least I don't remember Vrabel being assistant for New England, at least. So yeah, that's way closer than I thought it would be.
That is. So
especially with the lack of success for these guys overall.
Well, it is interesting. He's 10-4 from 2006 to 2017, and he's 4-8 since 2018.
Yeah.
Vrabel's probably part of that, and what's his name? Who's at Miami? He's probably
Brian Flores.
Yeah, Brian, because Miami's always given New England trouble in Miami as an example. It's just one of those weird dynamics.
it's a lot different comparing him to like say Saban's record too. I mean, in NFL to college, NFL's a lot more even. As from a competitive standpoint when it comes to something like that. Saban's playing some of these guys that like coaching Colorado State and things like that. The Patriots is going to be it's pretty much even going into any game. Like I said, they're all professionals, so it's a little bit different comparison there.
No, none of his former assistants are really bringing Alabama to Alabama.
Right.
I just think it's interesting because most of the Belichick coaching tree, you look at Matt Patricia with the Lions, you look at Bill O'Brien with Houston, he had some success. Josh McDaniels' first stint, you look at these guys, you don't think like success. So Eric Mangini, went like 29-55, then just appeared on ESPN for a decade. So, stuff like that.
True.
Now, speaking of Mike Vrabel, the Titans, who are on a skid right now and need to correct this or else their season's going to be over. You guys know that better than anybody else. They're headed to LA to play the Chargers.
Chargers favored by 3, total of 47.5. So they're basically predicting, 25-23, 25-22, something like that, 26-23. The public has a slight lean towards the Titans, but nothing major. They do really like the over in the game. 76% of the tickets are on the over. I think the line is pretty much accurate. If I lean any direction, it would be the Titans to bounce back just because the Chargers don't have a real home field.
Or much of a run defense, and I think that Derrick Henry is going to run all over them. And he's going to have to. I mean, he's going to have to get 120 yards in order for them to win this game, 120 plus. They clearly don't have the passing game, and they're clearly not going to be able to fix it in time for this season. So they're going to have to rely on the run as much as they can to go see how long it will last them. I do think the Titans can win this game. And if they get in there and Henry gets a good running start early on, and they give him 15 plus carries in the first half, that they can pull this off. But I agree with Bob. I like it right where it's at. I think these are evenly matched teams, and the Chargers should be getting 3 at home for that home field advantage.
I think the Titans are in all kinds of trouble right here, man. I think they got a lot of question marks. I think they're going to wind up limping into the playoffs by winning that pretty bad AFC South division. But you got Herbert coming off a career high in 39 completions in the game last week. Became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 13,000 yards in his first 3 seasons. Got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back on the field for the first time in a while last week, and it really made that offense click. They look a lot like what the Chargers are doing. I think they're surging late. I think they're going to wind up squeaking in those AFC playoffs there. I like what they're doing. I don't think they can catch the Chiefs in that division, but I think they're going to go into the playoffs as one of the hottest teams going. And so I think the Titans are in trouble this week, man. I don't think they right the ship this week. I'm going to take the Chargers anything under a field goal right here and expect them to kind of continue rolling and the Titans to kind of continue to struggle.
Yeah, it's an important game for both these guys. Right now, they're both sitting on the outside of the playoffs. They're tied record-wise with New England, but they're losing on the tiebreakers. So, Titans are still in it, right?
Yeah, Titans are winning their division.
Titans are winning the division, but the Chargers are sitting on the outside looking in. Yeah. So, big game for both these teams. Titans have lost 3 in a row, right?
I think it's 3 in a row now. Yeah.
Yeah.
That division's so bad too. It's just so bad.
Been that way for a while. Now we got the Bengals who are looking hot. And Jamar Chase is back. He looks better than ever. And they are going to go down and face a team that I don't know if they can score with them. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
This is a shocking line if you were looking at it from a preseason perspective. The Bengals are favorites in Tampa Bay. 3.5-point favorites to go in and beat Tom Brady in Tampa. And over 80% of the tickets are on the Bengals. Total of 44, relatively low total, but it's because of the offensive problems the Tampa has had this year. They're basically predicting a 24-20 Bengals win. Public's on the under. Public's on almost all of the early tickets are on the Bengals money line, which means my free bet of the week here for the Against the Spread show is that Tampa Bay bounces back. Take Tampa plus 3 and a hook. Tom Brady will not have 2 bad weeks in a row, and you might sprinkle a little bit even on the money line.
I could buy that. Tom Brady is gearing up to turn this whole thing around, make the playoffs in a crappy division, and end up winning the Super Bowl with this team,
and then retire and find himself a better model to bang.
I'll take that.
Exactly.
I'll take that
because he's Tom fucking Brady. So, and there you have it. Bucks plus 3.5.
Yeah, man. Everything in my soul. I'm a Buccaneers fan. Have been since I was a child, man. But everything in my soul wants to take the Bengals right here, which is why I'm going to take the Buccaneers plus 3.5 and agree with you guys. Because, like you said, I don't think Tom Brady has two real bad weeks in a row. I think it's time he rights that ship. That offense has had a whole lot of problems, basically because they shot themselves in the foot. And I think this is a big time game where they're going to be hyped up, ready to go at home. And the weather's not going to be a factor. I think they're going to be able to rebound a little bit. And the Bengals have been surging, which is all the more reason the public's probably going to jump all over Cincinnati. And I like the Buccaneers right here. I think Tom Brady, anything over a field goal, I just have a hard time betting against Tom Brady at home when he's getting more than 3 points. So I'm going to take the Bucs right here, plus 3.5. Look for a big bounce back week. And I wouldn't even be mad if you sprinkle a little bit on the money line.
This is a crazy game. And I don't know what the future holds for Tom Brady. I see a lot of people after last week's game saying he's washed, finally saying, oh, we're seeing it slowing down. We're seeing him missing these passes, all this stuff. Of course, this is just a week after he, in the last 4 minutes, just turns it on and he has this comeback against the Saints. But this is a game where I would just stay away. Like, to me, it's so crazy to think because they've been so fucking bad and the Bengals have been so good as of late. But that'll be a very interesting game to watch. It'd probably be Tony Romo and Jim Nantz on that call if I had to imagine on CBS. So the Sunday night game, we got Giants and the Commanders, a rematch from when they tied 2 weeks ago. Also, I believe that's the last time the Commanders played. So this is the second week in a row for them that they're playing the Giants.
Yeah, at home, coming off a bye. Both of them right on the edge of the playoffs. I think both of them right now, I think, are in, but they're right at that close cusp of making it or not making it. Amazing that the NFC East is has the two top 10, arguably the two top teams in the NFC, in the Cowboys and the Eagles, and then two other teams that might all four make the playoffs somehow. That would be extraordinary. Washington favored by 4.5, total of 40.5. So basically, they're predicting about a 22-18 score in favor of the Commanders, or the Washington Commies, as a friend of mine, Kelly in Vegas, and some others like to call them. The public loves the Giants. They think the Giants are going to go in there and cover that spread. They don't think they're going to win. Almost 90% of the tickets on the money line are on the Commanders, but 70% of the spread tickets are on the Giants, and they lean a little bit towards the over. I think the total is about right. I think the line is a little bit high. I would probably lean Giants, but no strong lean in the game. I think these are two teams that have overachieved most of the season. Still not a big believer in either Taylor Heineke or Danny Dimes as quarterbacks, as typical playoff quarterbacks. But there's a lot of playoff consequences on the line for this game. So no strong lean towards either side.
I'm on the exact same page. I think it should be, a touchdown or less, or a field goal or less, probably. So looking more like 3 for Washington. But otherwise, I like the total right where it's at. This is a game though that could come down. The difference maker might be Saquon Barkley.
I think from a teaser perspective, I do like the Giants because you can get them at 10.5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, Washington, you do have something to be fearful. This is a team that did beat Philly, the best team in the league. But then, again, they just tied you 2 weeks ago, and they're about to play you again. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like you said, Ryan, second straight game for the Commanders against the Giants. And I think some of that momentum from the first game is going to carry over in this one. The Giants really let one slip away. They're only able to manage 112 total yards across the second half and overtime, over 9 possessions against the Commanders in that second half. And I really expected the Giants to be a lot more competitive last week against the Eagles, and they really kind of laid an egg in that game. And I think they're another team with all kinds of problems right now. And I like the Commanders in this game. I think they're going to go down there, and I think anything under a touchdown you're okay with. Big-time division game, big-time playoff implications and stuff like that. But I just see two teams going in different directions right here. You got the Commanders coming off a bye, had all that more time. I mean, they've basically been preparing for this team for a month now, if you look at it like that. So I like what they've done. I really like the momentum they turned on that second half in that last game. I think it's going to carry over in this game. So I'm going to take the Commanders right here, anything under a touchdown.
There are situations in which all 4 of these NFC East teams could make the playoffs. With the current setup, if Seattle loses a couple games, if Detroit loses a couple games, and these guys, maybe one of them win. I don't think they'll tie again, but one of them wins, and down the stretch we'll see what happens. That would be a crazy scenario if 4 NFC East teams make the playoffs. Obviously, it's never happened before because we never had this many wild card spots before. But not what people expected out of that division this year, that's for sure. And now the Monday night game, what we would have looked ahead, preseason and been like, wow, what a great matchup. Aaron Rodgers versus the defending Super Bowl champions. This is going to be a potential NFC championship preview. Not the case. The Los Angeles Rams are headed to Green Bay to play Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was a rematch revenge game for the Packers going into the season. And the Packers still have a very, very slim, but a chance to be in the playoffs. So apparently Aaron Rodgers is still going to be chucking the ball. The favored by 7 at home against the Rams, who are Baker Mayfield is their new quarterback. But they have a long injury list, and you got to think it's going to keep growing as players are like, why really risk it when we're clearly out of the playoff hunt? Surprising collapse for a Super Bowl winner. But between the injuries, but even before Matt Stafford got injured, this offense just fell apart because it couldn't run the ball consistently. It turns out guys like Whitworth and others may have been more essential than people assumed the case to be. So the 2/3 of the tickets, though, are on the Rams. People are, looking at that Baker Mayfield comeback and thinking, hey, maybe he can go up there in the cold weather against Green Bay and do it. Just, Green Bay coming off a bye, playing at home. Aaron Rodgers has never lost. And he's 5-0-1 against the spread. 1 push, 5 wins. No losses. So my lean is towards the Pack to take care of business against a pretty weak Rams team that needed a miracle comeback to even win last week. The total 39.5, 2/3 of the money's coming in on the over. I could see the Rams just struggling to score. I mean, but before, other than that last 4 minutes, it was 3 points that they were able to manage under Mayfield. Mayfield wasn't exactly putting up a lot of points when he was with the Panthers. That offense is beat up. The defense is beat up. I just don't see it. And with Christian Watson coming on, I see some development and some rhythm for the Packers. So I lean Green Bay at home on Monday night. They get their revenge. It just may not matter the way they thought it would before the season started.
The Rams were down 6 points. They just got pinned back on their own 2-yard line by an incredible punt. I looked at Cricket and I said, Baker Mayfield is back. He's coming on the field and he's going to drive 98 yards, score a touchdown, and win this game.
Facts.
It happened. But I think that's about the biggest thing you'll see from Baker Mayfield this year. I don't expect him to come in here and do anything against the Packers. That defense has severely underperformed, but I look for them to kind of bounce back here and keep their playoff hopes alive and get this big win here and get it big. So I like Green Bay by 7.
Yeah, man. Lambeau Field is a long, long way away from that sunny atmosphere in Los Angeles. It's going to be about 12 degrees at kickoff. It's going to be real cold up there. I don't see a lot of offense in this game. I mean, this is a Rams team that for 3.5 quarters had put up 3 points against the Raiders defense. I like this Rams secondary versus these Green Bay wide receivers, man. You got Jalen Ramsey and those guys that are really going to be able to lock down those receivers. So I don't see a lot of fireworks out of the Green Bay offense. So I'm going to have to look at the total in this one and lean under the 39.5, 40, whatever you find it at. If it is at 39.5, maybe buy it up to 40 to kind of save yourself there. But I don't see a lot of points in this game, man. It's going to be cold weather. It's going to be a miserable atmosphere to play or watch a football game. And like I said, I think the Rams offense is just, there's too many injuries. There's too much stuff going on. Baker Mayfield's not that guy that's just going to light it up. And so I look for not to see a whole lot of fireworks. I think Green Bay wins the game. I think it's a little high for me at 6.5. I don't know what I'm going to get out of each team for an entire game. But the total here, I just don't see him getting over this. So I'm going to go under 39.5.
It's been interesting to see Christian Watson finally come on and be the guy that he was expected to be preseason. Big fantasy bust this year for a lot of guys. The first couple of games, last 4 games, man scored 8 touchdowns, even though he hasn't had a big workload. Hasn't had a ton of targets, hadn't had a ton of receptions, but he's just made the most out of them.
He's probably going to win some fantasy leagues for some guys that were able to snag him off the waiver wire late.
I would imagine, especially if he keeps up this production. We're in fantasy playoffs now, right?
Right. This week would be the first week.
Yeah, this week, the first week of fantasy playoffs for you guys out there. So, Christian Watson, we'll see what he does. But that's it. That's all for NFL games. I want to hit this super chat from Zenny Biscuit talking about horse racing for $5. January 28th is the $3 million Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream Park in Florida. 12 horses are likely to run, including the Haskell winner, Cyberknife. I like that name, Cyberknife. Thank you, Zenny Biscuit.
That's not the first time we've heard about Cyberknife, man. I remember that name.
Yeah, the name sticks with you there. It's again Cyberknife. Now, obviously, we are getting into bowl season. I think you guys are going to do a bowl preview video that we're going to put here on the channel, right? So, guys, keep an eye out for that for at least these first couple bowl games here. Obviously, bowl season is a big time for betting. A lot of these teams that aren't familiar with each other at all, some crazy prop bets, some crazy things can happen. So, keep an eye out for that. Other than that, Robert, where do people go to find all the latest news for basically everything sports, World Cup, college football, I think probably college basketball, Purdue Boilermakers #1 as they deserve to be. But where do they go for that, Robert?
Yeah. Oh, and we'll also have a World Cup final preview for the Argentina-France finale. We'll have that up over the next couple of days as well. Sportspicks.locals.com. Over 50% profits this year. Doubled our money last year for subscribers. The best value out there in the sports handicapping business. You get recommended picks each week. You get about 1,000 picks at least each season to pick as you wish. And for only $10 a month, it is the best deal by far. Most places you pay $100 per pick. Here you basically pay about a penny per pick. So that you get picks on the NFL, picks on college football, picks on you get other handicappers that are on the site that give picks on the NHL, on the NBA, on college basketball. You get Cricket's picks. You get Cricket and Cody's fantasy football picks and prop bet picks. So you get all kinds of tons of free information, as well as what's available for paid subscribers. You can actually directly message me if you are a subscriber, and I answer all the messages that get sent if you have a question about any kind of bet that's out there, and do it. So that's what you can get. The best value in the sports handicapping business at sportspicks.locals.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Cody and Cricket for being here as always, each and every Wednesday to break down these games. Thank you guys out there in the chat for supporting. We appreciate it. Good luck to you in all your bets this week on whatever you're deciding to bet on. And may the odds ever be in your favor. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you next week. Peace.